Okay.
We managed to corner Phil Robb, co-founder of Total Rock Studios and creative director on Evolve, for a quick chat in the world's loudest bar.
Hi, my name is Phil Robb. I am co-founder of Total Rock Studios and creative director on Evolve.
Let's have it. Stop wasting my time.
So, coming out of the alpha, we had a 56% win rate in favor of the monsters. A lot of folks, had said in the alpha that they felt like Kraken was overpowered. So, we looked at the numbers and felt like okay, we could tone them down a bit. So we did. So we come out of the beta with a 51.5% win ratio in favor of the hunters this time.
Right.
So I think and Chris, my partner, is the one who sort of really sort of knows this stuff in and out. I believe we decided we were going to kind of pump Kraken up a bit, and we were going to take Wraith down a bit. Her win ratio was like 75%, so it was kind of crazy. So we made some adjustments there. The nice thing about the way we got set up is it's all just numbers in a file. And it's real easy for us to switch those numbers around and just push that back out into the game.
So you've gone with 4 versus 1.
Mm-hmm.
Has it always been 4 versus 1?
Yes.
Was that from day one? That was the initial plan.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I mean, well, it goes back. A lot of people in Left 4 Dead, when we did that, did why 4, right? And 4, there's not any kind of tricky scientific or mathematical formula behind it. It's really just us playing the game and sort of figuring out what feels right. Right, and 4 always just felt right. 3 wasn't enough, right? Because there's always one guy that gets left by himself. Yeah. And 5 felt like too many, right? There's always one guy straggling, or it became harder to keep track of everyone. And so 4 just kind of felt right. So when we started, we were like, let's just keep it 4. And I believe we did a couple of versions where we tried some different numbers, but again, it just came back.
It just didn't work.
Yeah, 4 just felt right, and so that's what we stuck with. The thing is, anytime you pitch a game, right?
Yeah.
The people that you're pitching it to are going to ask you what's your post launch support plan look like? What are you going to do to keep people playing the game? What kind of DLC you will launch? And so for us, we sat down and very early on, it's like, okay, if we're going to have DLC, we want to do it right? We want to look at sort of the things that other games have done that have kind of been shitty that we've experienced, right, or whatever, and we don't want to do them, right? The big one being sort of splitting the community with paid DLC, right? Oh, we're going to make you pay for, however many maps, and if you're cycling through rounds with your buddies and you get to a map that you don't have, we just boot you out, right? We experienced that in Bad Company 2.
Yeah.
Right? And that always was kind of so we immediately decided we didn't want to do that. And we sort of looked at, okay, well, if we do DLC, what kind of things would we want to do? Obviously maps was an easy one, right? Of course, any maps that we do, we got to do for free because we don't want to split the community.
Yeah,
right?
With the same happened with Left 4 Dead. Yeah, free maps. Yeah,
exactly. Any sort of modes, observer modes or ranked stuff that we're going to come out with, any sort of game modes, things like that. Those are things that sort of affect the overall game, but would split the community, right? So we don't want to do that either, right? So we'll do those things, but those things, are you just download them and you're good to go. And then you have characters and monsters, which those are the way Evolve is sort of developed. It's very compartmentalized. Each character is sort of a little sort of individual, unique packet of gameplay. And so it kind of makes sense that's an easy thing for do. It's not easy. It takes time. It takes money, right? It's actually quite a big undertaking. But we can do that without having to rewrite major portions of the game. It's just kind of like plug it in. So that made sense, for us to do those, as DLC. Obviously, we can't do those for free because they're just too expensive, right?
Yeah.
So but what we did do is we say, okay, we still don't want to split the community. So how about we do these characters, right? And if you buy them, or if you don't buy them, you can still play with people who did buy them or didn't buy them. So if I buy a new character, I can still play with you, and you'll get to experience what it's like to be in the same round with that character because you can't pick them, right? So that felt like a pretty good compromise to us, and so we sort of rolled with that. I think a lot of the backlash that we're seeing, I think there are guys out there that just sort of have a philosophical opposition to DLC, which whatever, that's fine. Far be it for me to sort of shit on anyone's crusade, but at the same time, I think there are a lot of people out there that are complaining that don't really sort of fully understand what we're trying to do.
I honestly think a lot of the complaining was, I suppose, maybe more about the timing of the announcement.
Maybe that didn't help.
It could have come after the game, but the thing is, I suppose that wasn't.
Well, in terms of like the timing, right? If you're gonna, I think the philosophy was like, okay, well, we're providing all these options, but we want to make sure you kind of have an idea of what
what's coming. You don't want to buy something, walk in blind.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that was sort of where, people are going to think what they want to think. We just try every chance. Anytime somebody asks us, we're like, look, here's what we're doing. And most of the time, rational people are like, oh, that's not so bad.
You mentioned before about each character being an individual. How hard is balancing then? Because balancing must be, in terms of, it must be one of the toughest parts.
Chris and I have talked about it. It's not so much that it's hard; it's just time consuming.
Right.
It's kind of a labor of love. You know what I mean? It's like, we play the game every night. In the studio. There's like an hour set aside, whether either at the end of the day or in the middle of the day, depending on what day it is. Where it's like, okay, play tests up, everyone jump in, boom, play. So we get a lot of sort of data from that, and then of course the alphas and the betas, are able. Those give us, like the beta over the weekend, it was like 2.2 million rounds played, something like that. So that was a huge sort of influx of data for us to look at, which is awesome, right? Because that's super useful. That's more rounds of Evolve played than have been played in the entire sort of development cycle. Chris is kind of like a kid in a candy store. Oh, look at this! And he's switching all these filters and stuff like that, and so that's great. And that will continue post-release, right? We'll continue looking at those numbers and tweaking and pushing and pulling where we need to. So hard, I think, it's more just time consuming.
Has there been any user suggestions that you've actually taken on board, not from beta feedback, but during the course of development? Just any user idea that you've thought, that could work?
I can't think of one right off the top of my head, but the one, we came out of the alpha, and a lot of folks were kind of disappointed with the elite skins that were on the monsters and the hunters, because they really weren't sort of special enough, right? And so when we saw that, we were kind of like, yeah, okay, you're right. And so we went in and we redid those. They're sort of much more special now. I'm sure there are a few other things that I just cannot for the life of me think of what they are off the top of my head right now.
Cheers, Phil. That's all for part 1. Make sure you check out the next part.
Red crosses under it.